This is March Madness, the last day of March 2019 on a Sunday. And Kai, in his own way, is trying to make Abaco great again, and indeed the Bahamas. And for some reason, in my country called the Bahamas, once they got elected, they don't want to listen to nobody else. They got all the brains because only God give elected people brains. We got brains enough to stand in the line for 3 hours to vote for them. But all of a sudden we don't have no brains when they're elected. They don't come back to us. They don't ask anything of us. They just keep throwing garbage at us. Ask yourself. May will be 2 years. What can you be proud about in this country? This one is hard. Lord knows it's hard. And we keep talking about it, but people don't get it. But people outside the Bahamas is getting it. I get more hits outside the Bahamas than I get inside. And this is the top of the barrel. When you see the Prime Minister could prostitute his principal for 25 million, the country has gone to hell. The Bahamas is for sale. Byron Ross said it many years ago. The highest bidder can get it. And when Baker's Bay could prostitute my Prime Minister and my Minister of Immigration, Brent Simonet. You see, I saw Brent Simonet going back and forth to Baker's Bay. I say something going wrong here. Something is being colluded. Lo and behold, this was the collusion that Kai saw with the minister responsible for investment to bring investment into Abaco, went over there, and people want to say, you know, leave that alone. I am trying in my own way to make Abaco and indeed the Bahamas a better place. And I was one of them black fools. I'm going to call myself for the first time a black fool, because I was arguing and carrying on with the other blacks in Abaco and fighting to a point when I said Brent Simonet should be the first white Prime Minister in my lifetime, because the man got money, he got business experience, he dare not take nothing from the poor people, he would give. Boy, was I wrong. Then I was pissed off because I didn't understand that Hubert Ingraham, if I want to give him his props, I didn't understand that Hubert Ingraham knew the greed of that white shark called Brent Simonet more than me. That is why Hubert Ingraham fired him. Then I say, you know, Hubert is one of the biggest racists in this country. He never even had a deputy. He didn't even want Brent to be his deputy Prime Minister. He didn't want anything to do with him. And I said, boy, Hubert is one racist. Lo and behold, I had to apologize to Hubert, because Hubert knew this great white shark that came across the Baker's Bay and led Baker's Bay, prostituted the Minister of Immigration, the Minister of Investment, the Minister responsible for this country, the Prime Minister. Baker's Bay has caused them to prostitute their principal. You know why Baker's Bay was able to prostitute my Prime Minister? The Right Honorable, all these big name doctor, all the names that he called himself. Baker's Bay said, come here. Let me show you how prostitute work. I'm going to give you this 25 million and you lie to the Bahamian people. You use whatever color code you want to call it, but it's collusion. When Brent Simonet is in a company that getting the first largest share of the 25 million that Bakers Bay caused them to prostitute their principal. And then the Prime Minister of this country is getting the third largest share of 25 million. They didn't care about integrity, because they had any integrity, they would never have gone to Bakers Bay and sit down and send 18 Abaconians home. Then, where is our members of parliament for North and South Abaco that said nothing, have said nothing about our government letting Bakers Bay prostitute themselves because they have no principle? But the key word in all of this, where is the integrity within the government? There's two words that are missing in our government, and that is why we are $7 billion in the hole, because we don't have any principle, and our members of parliament mostly don't have any integrity. They have let the tourist dollar prostitute them, that they can't see right from wrong. And anybody that said that the Prime Minister and Brent Simonet did not have anything to do with this contract, y'all the biggest fools since Ananias and Sapphira. They should drag y'all out too by the heel of your feet. Because here in Abaco, where the breeze is so much clearer than Nassau, where the water is so much more cleaner, we can think freely because of the free, clean, fresh air. And we know it was a collusion between the ministries, the FNM government, and Bakers Bay, to a point that they let Bakers Bay prostitute their principal, because they started off right out the bat without any integrity. That is powerful. World, that is powerful. And my brothers and sisters that went abroad, stay abroad. Ain't nothing to come here for. Bakers Bay, we trained Bakers Bay. The black people trained Bakers Bay employees, the white foreigners, not Bahamians. They wouldn't even let white Bahamians run nothing. White foreigners are being trained by Bahamians. And the government of the Bahamas, the immigration department, has prostituted the jobs that are belonging to Bahamians and given to foreign whites, because they have no principle, to a point that they also, the government of the Bahamas, is today prostituting the jobs that Bahamians should get. You imagine foreigners house sitting in Bakers Bay for $60,000 a year? Foreigners getting work permit to house sit for $60,000 because the government of the Bahamas went and negotiated for them individual self, and they have never went to Bakers Bay to negotiate on behalf of the working class of the Bahamas. The persons that went and got the degree, they still got to make the bed, because the government of the Bahamas, both PLP and FNM, has prostituted their principle for the tourist dollar in the amount that they have never slept or sit down with integrity. If they had integrity, the prostitution would never come in. And they will never ever give up the principle of the Bahamas, that means Bahamian first. We are the first to get a piece of the cake here, not the last. We are becoming the third distant people in this country. Foreigners first, foreigners second, and Bahamian third, if they can't find any foreigners, because we don't have anybody in the government to stand for Bahamian on principle, because they ain't got no integrity. That is why we are being prostituted like the slaves of old. It's happening today in my town of Abaco, and I'm ashamed almost to be called Bahamian, because my government has prostituted my job because they have no principle. That is why Bakers Bay could run around without disc for 10 years. That is why Baker's Bay could run around taking people on boats without any license, any insurance for 10 years, because the government of the Bahamas has prostituted their principles for the tourist dollar and throw the Bahamian people under the bus, roll over them, and then reverse back over Bahamians in Abaco because they have no integrity. And until the Bahamas government and our ministers find principle that we all could live by and do it with some integrity, we all gotta be prostitute to the next tourists that come and open a resort for the dollar of tourists. We are being slowly prostituted year after year, and tomorrow will be April Fool's Day, and the fools are the government people that are continuing to prostitute the workers of this country for foreign dollar. That is so sad, but that is the reality and the world that we live in the Bahamas. Kai Case on a Sunday, last day of March Madness. I'm telling you the way I feel about it, because this is my network, and if you don't like what I'm saying, hit the delete button. But if you think about it, you may not like the message, but there is a lot of message from this messenger. Kai Care, live, WCAY. Last day of March 2019.